Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Carolina Station. I'm your host, Shammond Williams, and we have a great one here today with us. But first and foremost, would you please subscribe to the Carolina Conversation at your social media platform and put likes. And if you have any constructive criticism, make sure you put that in there to help me become a better host. But now we get to talk about the young man that we have here with us today. He hails from Lawrence, Kansas, and he was part of the two Final Four runs at the University of North Carolina, the 97 and 98 team. He was actually one of my teammates, and he was one of my roommates on the road. Yeah. But more importantly for you guys, he's an assistant coach at the University of North Carolina. Please, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Brad Frederick.
Privileged to be here, man. I'm happy to be here, and good to talk to you.
Well, thank you, Brad. I appreciate you taking the time to be a part of the Carolina Conversation. And I know that you just got back from Wyoming.
Yes.
Probably was vacationing.
Yeah. I got to take the family. So actually 2 years ago, I was planning to take the family to Yellowstone, Grand Teton, and Jackson Hole. And COVID put that on hold. And so I try to do one vacation every year. The bad thing about being a basketball coach is the time for vacation is limited. And so Usually it falls the first week of August every year. And so 2 years ago, we went to Greece, had a great trip. Last summer, of course, it was canceled. And so it was exciting to be out there. I've got 3 kids, 13, 10, and 7. And so there were days that I wanted to fight them, and there were days that we had a great time, and both in between. So it was a great trip, and now ready to get back and get started with another school year.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good. So before we talk about the school year, how many years? Let the people know how many years you've actually been a college coach or in the administration in college sports.
Yeah, so it's kind of amazing. So as you know, my last year with you was 98, but my last year here at Carolina was Coach Guthridge in 1999. And I'll never forget walking out of the office talking to Coach Guthridge, and he said, go work at Vanderbilt, where I had gotten a job opportunity, and hopefully in a couple of years get a chance to come back. And I went to Vanderbilt thinking that I'd be there for a few years and maybe something would happen. And 14 years later, I worked at Vanderbilt for 14 years. I got a call from Coach Williams, which was 8 years ago. And Joe Holliday had retired on staff. So I just finished my 8th year back here. And so with Coach Davis now, this will be the start of my 9th year back. So 8 years here at Carolina and 14 at Vanderbilt. So going strong. Hard to believe it's been that long.
Yeah. I think you show our age a little bit with that.
Exactly.
And plus one for me. So, and so, Brad, would you please tell us, give us some detail or let us know, what you've seen evolve in the game of basketball from like you said, you're looking at 20, 22 years, 20 years. What has evolved and what has changed in your mindset from the time that you started to now?
Yeah, so it's interesting for me. So coming from Carolina, learning Coach Smith and his style, which Coach Guthridge, of course, carried over, and then going to Vanderbilt and working for Kevin Stallings, who is a great offensive mind, great coach. And the biggest thing I learned in those 14 years is there's a million different ways to play. And so we played all different styles, whether it be Bob Knight motion, ball screen offense, Princeton offense, Carolina secondary break. Basically anything that you could do, we tried. And one of the things that Coach Stallings liked to do was change up his offense every year. And so, as far back as 2008, we started at Vanderbilt, we started playing small, playing with 4 guards, 1 big guy, and doing different things. And so I got to see the benefits of that. And then, of course, coming back to work for Coach Williams here at Carolina, obviously Coach Williams is much more traditional in the way he likes to play. he wanted to continue the Carolina secondary break, but ran it at a much faster pace than we played back in the day. And so his big thing was taking Carolina secondary break and adding tempo to it. And so, but of course, one of the criticisms that Coach Williams always got was that his style was outdated. And of course, I take exception to that in that, it was a style that is highly effective, and so many principles of it, are what people look for in analytics: offensive rebounding, getting to the foul line, trying to get layups first. Of course, the 3-point probably being the biggest thing that people complain about. But so just got a chance to work it and do a bunch of different styles of offense. And so now it'll be interesting to see with Coach Davis at the helm, just having worked with him for the last 8 years. I know what kind of style he likes, and I think what you'll see is a lot of elements of the Carolina offense mixed in, obviously, with more perimeter shooting for sure.
Right. So explain to us, being in Vanderbilt for 14 years,
Yeah,
and then a telephone call from Coach Williams to come in and be a part of his staff at the University of North Carolina. Now, it's always something to be somewhere else, of course, but
right.
to be in the environment that you played in, to be in an environment that you put blood, sweat, and tears into that, and had a lot of wins under your belt as well. How was that call in getting the opportunity to come back and be on the staff in Chapel Hill?
Yeah, what's amazing about it is just the year prior, Coach Williams had a staff in Jared Hass, C.B. McGrath, and Steve Robinson, who had been in place for a long time. And so Jared had just gotten the UAB job the year prior. And there was like a month process where I know, anytime there's a job opening, every former Carolina player wants to be a part of it. And so at the time, I was hoping that would be me. And obviously, I have a relationship with Coach Williams. I've known him for a long time. And so, I went through almost maybe a month of thinking, well, maybe I'll have a chance to get this job. And then Coach Williams hired Hubert. And like everybody else, I didn't know that Hubert was interested in the job. And as
Right.
Hubert tells it, he wasn't interested in the job. It's just something that Coach Williams brought to him. And so at the time, I thought, all right, well, it's just not meant to be. Just need to move on from that dream. And then a year later, Coach Williams called me and said that Coach Holliday was retiring. So, I kind of put it out of my mind. Like I said, I always wanted an opportunity to get back, but when it didn't happen the first time in kind of 2012, I thought, well, it's just not meant to be. And then so I was ecstatic. Coach Williams, like I said, I've known since I was a kid. Through my relationship with my dad, and my dad hired him in 1988. And so I was a sixth grader at the time, and I kind of grew up watching him practice. So for me, it was the best of both worlds. I had unbelievable amount of respect for Coach Williams, and I had, been at Carolina. So it was kind of the dream job. So when he called, I was just so thrilled to be back. And it was actually the director of basketball operations job at the time. And I knew that, hopefully I'll come in here and work hard and prove myself. And then when somebody, leaves for another job, I'll have an opportunity. And then after we won it in 2017 and CB got hired at UNC Wilmington, I was able to move back into the spot of assistant coach. So it was just amazing. It's been amazing to work with Coach Williams. And like I said, now having the chance to work with Hubert the last 8 years and see how he works and see his passion for UNC. So hopefully we can continue the same success that Coach had.
Yeah. Well, trust me, I know about that 2012 opportunity because I lived in Chapel Hill, and
Yeah.
I was hoping that I would get the opportunity myself, but you
Right.
got it. And hey, you just keep moving. But I was blessed enough to get into coaching that year by going to Furman University. So
Right.
So now, working for Coach Williams, for 8 years.
Yeah.
And now he, how was the conversation or the day that learned from Coach Williams that he was going to step away from the game?
Yeah.
Don't know.
It was a shock. I mean, it was a shock in that you always knew that it was coming, but you just didn't expect it to come that day. And so when Coach Williams, when he hired me, which was, before the 2013-14 season, I guess, I asked him how long he expected to stay in coaching. And he told me 5 to 9 years at the time. And so he made it 8. So he almost made it to the 9. And it's Coach Williams is such a he has so much passion for the job and the university, and so in some ways you just never saw him wanting to stop. And in many ways, I think if you could take out so many of the outside elements, and I think this is probably what Coach Smith felt too when you and I played and he retired, is that if you could eliminate the 75% of the job that doesn't revolve around basketball and just allow him to coach, I think Coach Williams would probably want to continue on. But there's just so much more to being a college basketball coach, certainly being a head coach, than what happens on the floor. And so anyway, so it was different. Obviously, everybody, the thing everybody thinks about first was we played our final home game against Duke in the Smith Center, and Coach Williams kissed the floor. I didn't even see it. I just remember we came up to the offense to start grading tape, and Eric Hoots said, "Wow, Coach kissed the floor. Everybody on social media is going crazy. What does this mean?" Well, Coach came up and we said, "Hey, Coach, man, everybody's going crazy. You did the same thing that Antoine did when we played in '98 in San Antonio and kissed the floor. What does this mean?" And he said, "Oh, no, it's nothing." He said, "I'm just so thankful for having the opportunity to play in front of the fans and how important the home court was." Well, we only had fans for 2 games. And so you just kind of move it down and didn't think about it. But, as I reflect after hearing what happened, kind of it all makes more sense. The things he did towards the end, it was just, like I said, so much about the job has changed, be it, transfer portal, social media, now name, image, and likeness coming. It's just a different job than it was, just even a few years ago. So things keep changing with the job, making it different. And so it was definitely difficult. The way he did it too was a little bit surprising. Basically, he came in the day of his press conference, brought us all together and said, "Well, guys, I've decided that I'm done, and I need you to call these people." And gave us all a list of guys to call, and that was about it. And so, we didn't have much notice. Obviously, Hubert had some notice because Hubert had discussions with Coach prior to that, as he shared. So it was different for sure. The thing about Coach Williams, again, I just say he has such love for UNC and the job. And so it was just hard to see him, obviously, as you know, we have a great relationship with Scott, Coach's son, and Scott would always say, "Well, there's no chance he's ever stopping. He's gonna coach until the bitter end." And so, I kind of always had that thought in my mind that he would just keep on coaching.
Right. So I know it hadn't been a long time.
Right.
It's been a short time, but how is the environment, or how are you being able to adapt? You've worked with Hubert and you guys were colleagues, and now he's at the helm and you're still colleagues, but he's in a different position now. And for yourself, knowing that, this is, there's a lot to it with the evolution of the game, and then with Hubert taking the realm, how is it for you right now being in that environment?
Yeah, it's been, the first few months were obviously wild, given that so much had changed with the roster. We essentially went from a team with 4 big guys to, 4 really good big guys, to only having Armando back, and Armando was also testing the waters. And so, and of course, the transfer portal changed everything. And so, the first couple months was just, we were going crazy. Normally spring is more of a laid back time, but obviously with the coaching change, with needing to get more players for the roster, and everything that was changing with NIL, that made for just a wild time. And so, Hubert immediately said what he wanted is, big guys and wings who can shoot. And so we went out about trying to find that. I think, one of the problems we had last year again was just overall lack of shooting. We were a team that couldn't shoot very well outside of Kerwin, and so we needed to get more shooting. And I think Justin McCoy is a guy who's going to be a great shooter for us. Obviously, Brady Manick has made 235 threes at Oklahoma through 4 years, and then Dawson Garcia, a kid who we had recruited really hard prior to him going to Marquette. And then, of course, he came in here in the Smith Center and really killed us when we played him here. So we saw that, and he has the ability to kind of do both, play inside, make threes. And so, we continue to work to try to, see where this thing is going to take us. But, I guess the one thing I'll say about Hubert, probably the most misunderstood thing about him when he was an assistant, was that he was so stoic on the bench. A lot of times people thought, well, he's not passionate about it. And so, but what they didn't see was behind the scenes and just how much passion he has. And I think some of that now is starting to come out as the head coach. Hubert always didn't want to overshadow what Coach Williams wanted to do. And now, as a head coach, you get to see more of that passion that he has, for this place and these guys. And so that continues to be something that I think you'll see from Hubert going forward.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. And so, a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I had an opportunity to come up and spend some time with the guys and play pickup with them and things like that. A good group of kids for sure. What are your thoughts about those kids this year moving forward? And, you got a lot of kids that have some games under their belt,
right?
And opportunity to play in Hubert's system. What are your thoughts and opinions of the kids and that opportunity?
Yeah, one of the best things about this past summer is that the Carolina tradition is that former players like yourself, former NBA players, come back and they help mentor the next generation of players. And so, like when you came back, one of the things that we missed greatly during the COVID summer was there was no camp, there was no pickup games, there was no chance for the former players to come in. And we had this freshman class that was 6 deep coming in, and they had no Carolina experience. There wasn't the summer, there wasn't the former players, there wasn't being on campus, there wasn't in-person classes. We couldn't even really talk to them because everything had to be done over the phone because we're afraid if we're too close to them. I talked to some of the freshmen now who are rising sophomores, Kerwin, Caleb, those guys. And I said to them just a few weeks back this summer, I said, hey, could you point me to where the old well is on campus? And they said, what's the old well? But it's crazy to us because, we love Carolina. We love everything about campus life. We love going up to the pit. We loved hanging out on campus, and we love going to Franklin Street and hanging out. And now these guys basically spent the entire last year, they were either in the Smith Center taking class online, or they were practicing, or they were back in the hotel. So they weren't even in the dorms because we eventually had to move them off campus into the hotel. So they had no Carolina experience. So right. I'm super excited for those guys to get a chance to have the Carolina experience. And one of the big parts of that was this past summer, those guys getting a chance to play pickup with you, Tyler Hansborough, Marcus Page, all the guys who came back and played, Bryce Johnson, Luke May, and they got a chance to be around you guys and see what Carolina basketball is about. So I think there's going to be a huge growth from those guys who had a freshman year unlike anybody else. Obviously, we've added some new pieces. We have 2 freshmen that came in, got to taste a little bit of summer school coming for second session, and Dontrez and DeMarco. We have Justin McCoy. Brady Manick was here all summer. Dawson we added very late, and so Dawson only got to be around for a couple weeks. but we have some really good pieces. We have some guys that obviously need to step up and see their game improve. As I said last year, one of the problems we had was lack of shooting. I think there are certainly guys on our team last year who were going to be better shooters than they showed. Obviously, Caleb got off to a rough start from the three-point line. We saw all year that he's a better shooter than that. He finally started coming on late in terms of his three-point shot, and so I think he's going to be a much better shooter. RJ, someone who is consistently a good shooter for us in practice. I think RJ is going to be a better shooter this year. Obviously, Kerwin's a known commodity, but Kerwin experienced what every good shooter faces, which is, when people suddenly realize you can make threes, they're going to guard you different, as you experienced. If we know Shammond can make threes, we're going to guard him tighter. And so Kerwin is going to have to work harder to get shots. We're going to have to do a better job getting him free for shots, but certainly somebody that can shoot in Kerwin. And then, those big guys, having Armando back is huge. Armando is somebody who has been through the system, had a great year for us last year, was our leading, scorer in limited minutes. And so getting him more minutes this year, and then you add in Brady and Dawson and Justin, and I think that allows us more versatility to do different things. We only had limited practice time this summer, but I know that Hubert wants to, like I said, continue to evolve. The one thing I will say, the way Coach Williams liked to play with two bigs, it works better, obviously, when you have big guys who can shoot. We had that, 2018 with Luke. We had that 2019 with Cam and Luke, and so obviously when you have big guys who can spread the floor, that opens things up. One of the things I laughed about last year was people said, well, they should take one of the big guys off the floor to open things up. Well, in my mind, now we're taking away our strength. Our strength was we couldn't score, we couldn't take care of the ball, we couldn't shoot, but the one thing we could do was offensive rebound, and that kept us in a lot of games. And it doesn't matter if you have one big guy on the court, two big guys, three big guys, if they're not going to guard your perimeter guys, it's still going to be congested in the lane. And so I think, we'll have better spacing, like I said, and the personnel will be different for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's good. And because you are assistant coach, I thought that would be some great information for those, that love Carolina basketball.
Yeah.
But I want to get to the part that I love. This is the part that Shammond Williams loves.
Yeah.
And this is the most important part, really, when people get to find out about you.
Yeah.
And so, let's go back to, it may have been 1995.
Yeah.
What made Brad Frederick come to the University of North Carolina?
Yeah. So it was actually Coach Williams and Scott Williams. I knew I wanted to get into coaching. At the time, I had offers to play, anywhere from low major to mid major, and I thought about doing those. But I also knew that more important for me was I wanted to be a coach. My dad had been a coach before he was an athletic administrator. Like I said, I had a close relationship with Coach Williams. And so he said, when I was struggling with what to do, he said, well, why don't you apply to the University of North Carolina? You can learn from Coach Smith. And so I applied to UNC, and it took me a long time to get in. It's hard to get in and out of state. I finally got in late in the process and came here and visited and talked to Coach Guthridge. And he said, well, you can try out for the JV team and see what happens from there. And so decided to come and moved in as a freshman, right down the hall from you in Granville Towers, 6, and kind of got indoctrinated into Carolina basketball. And so had a chance my first year to play JV basketball for Phil Ford, which was an incredible experience. Got to practice a little bit with you guys, and then got moved up the next year for Coach Smith. And so, wanting to be in coaching, wanting to be around Coach Smith, who I didn't know anything about other than stories from Coach Williams or my dad. Coach Smith actually recruited my dad when he was in high school, if you can believe that. He was Coach Smith was at Air Force Academy at the time, and my dad thought about going. My dad was from St. Louis, and he thought about going to the Air Force Academy, and he had an issue with his eye that wouldn't allow him to get into the academy. And so he talked to Coach Smith, and Coach Smith said, "Well, you should consider going to University of Kansas. That's where I played." And so that's how my dad ended up playing at KU, and then the rest of his career at KU. So definitely that tie is what brought me here.
Okay. Now, explain to the people how it felt being, you said moved up.
Yeah.
Moved to the varsity team.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a chance to watch you play because you would practice with us a little bit, and then you would play the JV game before us, and you were a good basketball player for sure. They could really shoot it. So having an opportunity to move up, how was that experience, or getting the call that you want to be up?
Yeah, one of the incredible things about Carolina basketball to me is also the JV program that Coach Smith started, and the JV programs are basically dead throughout almost all the country. There's not many of them left.
Right.
And so, that was something that was always super important to Coach Smith, I think, to give regular students at Carolina the opportunity to feel like they're a part of the program. And so, back when I tried out in 1995, there was 200 people that tried out for the JV program. And so it was a big deal to be a part of. And Coach Smith had, so many guys that became parts of the program that started through JV, that it was just a special feeling. You felt like not only had you achieved a personal goal, but it meant a lot to other guys on the JV program whenever anybody got moved up. And so I still have a ton of pride for guys on our current JV program. Our latest is Dewey Ferris, who I coached, who, Dewey was a Carolina kid from Charlotte, wanted to be a part of the program, was willing to do anything it took to be a part of the program. And so you have a great deal of pride watching those guys go from JV to varsity, same experience I had. And then, of course, what made it even more special is you look around the country and sometimes you'll see, I watch people and the way they treat their walk-ons is totally different than what Carolina does, what Coach Smith does, what Coach Williams continued, which was treat them the same way as they treat Vince Carter or Antoine Jameson. So I got treated the same way as you and Antoine and Vince, despite being, just a walk-on. And so that part was so special. And then, obviously I didn't know at the time that it was going to be Coach Smith's Freudian slip there. It was going to be Coach Smith's last year. But that 1997 year for me was just so special to be around Coach Smith, because finally got a chance to be a part of the program. And as you know, it was a kind of a wild year in that, we went overseas in the middle of the year in 97, which, you think about now, almost nobody, it would be unheard of for a team to leave in the middle of the season. And we go to Amsterdam, we go to Italy to play. And then we come back and we started the ACC season 0-3 and all the drama that was with that and the game at Virginia and just so many memories of what that season was like, to where we struggled so much in the first part and then just got absolutely hot down the stretch and won 16 games. And Coach Smith passes the win record and goes all the way to the Final Four. So it was just an amazing first year for me to be a part of.
Yeah. Now, being a part of that team that year, because that was the first for a lot of, well, I'm not going to say a lot of us, but for myself, it was the first that I was starting. I think it was the first year that Serge was starting. And so. There was a lot of firsts for a lot of people. But what was some things that kind of stood out? You're starting to smile.
Yeah.
Some of the things that stood out to you about that season,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, just the anytime, every memory with Coach Smith was so special. I remember, also kind of different the way Coach Williams did it is Coach Smith just traveled separately. So as we'd fly down to Atlanta to play Georgia Tech, and Coach Smith would be nowhere, and all of a sudden, boom, he's just there for the meeting or whatever. He was traveling separately, and so just the way he would. Coach Smith never cursed at you, but he could make you feel so low. He'd say, like you guys deserve burgers tonight instead of the Angus barn or something like that.
Right.
But just that season, the meeting at Virginia stands out to me the most. We start out 0-3 in the ACC. You and Serge called the players only meeting at Virginia. I remember Serge slamming the door, and you were emotional, and Serge was emotional, and this was all new to me. And I remember riding back on, we bussed up to Virginia, and I remember bussing back, and Ed Cota saying, "Man, if we lose," we played NC State, our fourth game of the conference schedule, and Ed said, "Man, if we lose to NC State, I'm just going to start lifting weights and getting ready for next year." and he was kidding, of course. But then we play NC State at home in the Smith Center, and we were down, I think, 10 or 11 points with 2 minutes to go, and had a furious comeback just to win that game. But it was just amazing how far that team came. And then, you look back on it, of course, well, we had you who played, how many years you played in the pros? 10, 12?
Enough.
A long time.
7, yeah. 7,
yeah, you
8,
played a long time in the pros. And then we had, Vince and Antoine who scored 20,000 more. I think Vince scored 25,000 points in the NBA. And so it was an unbelievable team, but it just took a while for the team to kind of find itself. And I think a lot about what social media would be like, back then, because can you imagine having that team and having an 0-3 start and how harsh the criticism would be? Or I think about, even Vince, that was Vince's sophomore year. But Vince coming in as a freshman and playing 15 minutes a game, can you imagine what social media would be like with all the criticism about Coach Smith not playing Vince and all that stuff. So, but that Virginia locker room probably stands out to me the most from that year, just that experience.
Yeah. That was the Webb Tyndall moment, baby. Webb Tyndall made it happen in that locker room.
Yeah.
Webb Tyndall is one of our teammates that lives in Greenville, North Carolina. And awesome guy, but he had the most powerful statement like this, we're nothing, but if we do like this, we pack a punch. Yeah, Webb, there you go.
Exactly.
Yeah, Webb, good old Webb.
Love that guy.
Yeah, love him for sure. And so, us losing in the Final Four and then coming back and preparing, I know that the conversation that I was having at that time to focus, for the next year, how was it the beginning of that year when we were trying to prepare ourselves for a national championship run?
Yeah.
I felt personally that, like this would be the time that we could actually make win a national championship.
Sure.
Well,
yeah. So for me, it was going into that 98 season. Obviously we had everybody back except for we lost Serge, from that team, but most of the main players with you, obviously Ed Cota, Shammond, Vince, Antoine, Maktar back. And so, Adamola, obviously. And so we had, the Super Six, the alphabetical rotation as it became later on in the year. But, I think what was so surprising for me that preseason was, if you can remember, is all of a sudden Coach Smith started doing the individual workouts. Well, he had never done that before. And so, as we later learned, he was trying to see if he could get the batteries charged back up, because, we went all the way up to the start of the season. I remember, we ran the mile and they said, hey, you guys need to go down, have a little meeting at after the mile run. And I was thinking, well, going to talk about practice. Coach Smith loved to meet. We would meet before every practice. And, that's when he dropped the bomb on us that he was done and he was turning it over to Coach Guthridge. And so all of that was so surprising. And obviously, we continued to have an amazing year because you guys were such unbelievable players and we had a great team, regardless. But, just that season, going from Coach Smith to Coach Guthridge, Coach Guthridge, obviously it was his first year on the job and so, so many of the things that we had done, whether it be, the meetings before practice, things like that changed. But what we, the way we practiced, the way we did things stayed, relatively the same. So, it was obviously a great year. I always felt like we were still the best team in '98. I feel like, that was our year to win the national championship. And obviously, a bad night in San Antonio changed that. But I really feel like that team, the '98 team, was absolutely incredible. And I still think, almost every year I think about how good that team was and how that team would be if they played now. Obviously, everybody says that, but that team is certainly special.
Yeah, that was quite a year. That was quite a year for sure. We ended up having Brian Bursticker come in as a freshman. Brendan came
Brendan
in
Haywood.
as a freshman, and Michael Brooker came in as a freshman as well.
Yeah,
we had some good pieces.
well, Mike was a sophomore. Mike had been there.
Mike
Yeah,
was
Mike was a sophomore. Yeah. He was a sophomore.
Sophomore.
But yeah, it was the battle because like I said, you guys, the white team was unbelievable. We had basically, Brendan Haywood was the only guy on the blue team to really give us a chance because he's the only guy who could really rebound with anybody. I tell people all the time, like, can you imagine? One of the things as a JV player, moving up to varsity or one of the teams as a blue team guy is you have to be versatile. So you have to be able to know multiple positions because your most important contribution to the team is being available at practice every day. And so for me, it was, hey, I got to play positions 2 through 5. And right. So if I was guarding the 2, I was guarding you. If I was guarding the 3, I was guarding Vince or Adamola. If I was guarding the 4, I was guarding Antoine. And if I was guarding the 5, I was guarding Maktar. So I was getting my butt kicked any spot, every position. But yeah, that was just an amazing year. The question I have is, have you discussed the Virginia incident on your podcast from the '98 season? Because we talked about the '97, but have we discussed the '98 season?
Well, I will let you bring that up, Brad. How about you?
Well, you can tell it better than me. So my memory of the '98 season was, again, we had the 6 of you guys in an alphabetical rotation. And then Brendan Haywood came in some and got some minutes as a freshman, as kind of the 7th man. And then For me, it was, hey, Brad knows what he's doing. He knows the plays. He can come in. He's not going to mess things up. He's not going to try to shoot. He's just going to come in and facilitate the offense. So every let me get 30-second sub for Shammond in the first half. And so we're playing up at Virginia in the '98 season, and I go to check into the game, and it was at a free throw, and I came in to get you, and the free throw happened, and then a timeout happened, and no action had transpired in the game. And so I walked back to the bench, and I hear Coach Hanner saying, I'll go get him. And Coach Guthridge goes, no, just let him go. And so I was like, what's going on here? All of a sudden, there's no Shammond. And Shammond had exited the building. So I'll let you tell it from there.
Okay. Well, since you brought it up, first of all, we had the 6-man starting rotation.
Yep.
that I could not understand anyway. I mean, even at 46, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. And every year I watch the the national championship game, I look and I say, you know what? There's a great basketball player coming off of the bench for that. Somebody has to sacrifice for the team to be champions. And a lot of times this is where Mactar and I, we have our issues, because he always said, we should have won the national championship. And I said, no, we shouldn't, Mactar. He said, well, what do you mean? I said, because somebody wasn't willing to come off the bench. And it takes somebody to be willing to sacrifice themselves for what's greater for the team. And I said, and so no, we shouldn't have won. Now, who should have come off the bench? That's to be questioned. It was easy for me. It would have been, I think, Coach, the way Coach Smith did things, but nonetheless. So this is what happens at Virginia. The game prior, we play Georgia Tech in triple overtime, and I have 42. You remember?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, 42. And so then we go play Virginia. And, it's alphabetical order. So the Virginia game, I don't start the game. And Brendan I think Brendan said this at the podcast, people didn't catch on to it. But we were playing UVA, and the scouting report was, when Curtis Staple comes off the screen, we're going to trap it. So, of course, I didn't start the game. So we're sitting there, you wait till the timeout. It's right before the timeout, and I subbed in and I went in the game, and Curtis runs the ball screen. So I send him over the ball screen. Brendan doesn't come up. Curtis shoots the three. Boom. I turn around to the bench and I say, tell Brendan to get up on the ball screen. So we run down and play, and I get fouled. I'm at the free throw line. So I get fouled. I shoot the first free throw. I shoot the second free throw. Then it says, bam. So, I'm not looking at all. And then you say, Shammond. I said, yeah. You said, I got you. And I was like, I just came in. I don't know if you remember that. I told you.
Yeah.
I just came in, right? I don't understand this. And so I go to the bench. And so I'm looking around like, what's going on? And Coach Guthrie said, you're talking with your hands. No, he said, don't say anything to the bench during the game. I said, what? Don't say anything to the bench. Like, tell Brendan to get up on the screen. And he said, okay, Shammond, well, let me know when you're ready to go back in. So I said, with my hands, I said, I'm ready to go back in. I mean, Brad, I've been talking with my hands ever since anybody's known me. So I said, I'm ready to go back in. So he said, no, you're not. Look at your hands. So I said, my hands? I'm looking, I'm like, oh, so in my head, I'm kind of, they took me out because I'm cut. I'm thinking I'm cut. So
Right.
I look, but I don't see anything. I said, no, my hand's okay. I said, no, I'm ready to go back in the game. I'm trying to get back in the game. I say, well, I'm ready to go back in the game. I said, no, you're not. Look at your hands. So I'm like, looking at my hands. So Mactar is sitting beside me. And so I said to Mactar, Mac, what is wrong with my hands? Mactar said, I don't know what's wrong with your hands. And so I'm like, what in the world are you talking about? And so Coach Ford says, Shammond, you're talking with your hands. He doesn't want you to talk with your hands. So, Brad, I tell you, it took me about 2 minutes. And I said, Coach, I said, you've known me ever since I've been here. I said, I've never been disrespectful to anybody. I've always done what y'all have asked me to do. I don't understand this thing. I'm a senior, Brad. Do you think the first time I've ever talked with my hands? Does this make sense, Brad? I'm a senior. I'm like, I'm not understanding this thing. And so So he says, yeah, I understand, you know. He said, well, are you ready to go? So naturally, I do this, Brad. Yeah, I'm ready. I stick my head like, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's emotional.
Yeah.
You're trying to play. And he gives me a look like, see, there you go again. I'm like,
Right.
So Coach Ford tells me, Shammond, put your hands between your legs. I said, okay, if this is what's going to get me back in the game, I'll put my hand between my legs. So I put my hand between my legs and said, okay, I'm ready to go back in. And so I go, get up, I go to the table. Like you said, there was a timeout. So you remember when you used to play, when we played,
right.
They would ask you, who are you going in for?
Right.
So I go to the table and the gentleman says, Shammond, who are you going in for? I said, I don't know. I said, it was a timeout. I said, I don't know. I said, let me find out. And so right when I turned around, Coach Handers was standing like right in front of me, like nose to nose. And he was screaming like, da, 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 da. And I just said, you know what? This is enough. And I walked down. If you remember, I don't know if you remember, but I walked straight line.
Yeah.
And Virginia was in the huddle. I jumped in between their huddle over the bench, and I went to the locker room. So you know, you didn't know what happened, but
there was a lot of action there.
Yeah, I began talking with my hands as a senior.
Yeah.
With a 6-man start rotation.
Yes. Well, that was definitely a memory from that season. So, but yeah, another moment of many where can you imagine Twitter if that had happened now? So I always think back about how amazing things would be. Every moment is magnified with social media and Twitter and what that would have been like back then.
Yeah. I tell you what, I don't know about social media or Twitter, but what I will tell you is that there was an interesting day in Chapel Hill the next day. I can tell you that. From Coach Smith. When Coach Smith got to campus, it was an interesting day. For most. Not many,
sure.
But and they put you right in between there because I know you probably like, what in the world?
Yeah, it was wild because we call it the super sub. I go in there for 20 or 30 seconds until you're ready to come back in the game, and a lot happened there. I came back and I said, man, what in the world is going on over here?
Yeah, that was an interesting year. I remember since we talking about it, I remember the Final Four game.
Yeah,
and another game that I looked at the schedule early in the year and I said, hey, if we win all these games that I think we're going to win, we get to the Final Four, I'm not starting.
Right.
So personally for me, I'm like, I'm averaging about 22 a night in the NCAA tournament. We get to Final Four. I said, I ain't starting. But, I remember getting back into that game. And I don't know if you remember this. And Utah called a timeout, and we had just made a run. And what they kept doing was they kept leaving Ed to a certain extent. You know what I mean? They wanted to stop his penetration and make him shoot jump shots.
Right.
And so I remember making a run, and I remember every time I would break guy down, they would come and double. And I was like, and I said, I remember saying to Coach Guthrie, said, Coach, put Brad in, let Brad stand out and let him shoot the three. I said, because they're going to double team us. They're double teaming us. And, we just need to capitalize on the three. You know what I mean? We can capitalize on the three, we would be. Coach said to me, Coach Guthrie, man, he's something else. He said, Shammond, you want to coach this team? I look up at the clock. It was like 5 minutes left. I say, well, Coach, well, Coach, it's really not going to matter because if we lose, this is gonna be my last one anyway. You remember that?
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That was a wild game. We couldn't get on track.
Couldn't get on track. Couldn't get on track. But man, but we had a great team. We had great chemistry. We had great leadership. And we grew. We grew as men. We grew as basketball. Sure. And it's always great when I come back to Chapel Hill and I see you there. And you and I, we have our conversations. Right. I can be extremely candid with Brad because Brad was my roommate. On a lot of road trips and for Shammond to play a little bit, Shammond had to go out a little bit. Had to get out a little bit. And I used to tell Brad, I said, "Hey, Brad, you want to go?" He said, "Nah, I think I'm gonna stay." Okay, and since you're gonna stay in, Brad, I don't expect anybody to know that I'm going out. And so Brad was the epitome of teammates because he could keep a great secret and allow me to be me and allow me to get myself charged for the games in the way that I would charge myself. But you've been a great representation for our team and our class, man. I want to make sure that I let you know that, and it's always great to have you there because I know that there's nothing against anyone else. I know that there's somebody there that has the same perspective and has gone through the same battles that I've gone through, right? And kind of understand where I'm coming from. If it's misconstrued or perceived the wrong way. Right. Man, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for everything that you've done and everything that you're doing for the program. And I know Coach Smith is extremely proud of you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's like I said, like we said when we were talking about the job opening and Coach Williams hiring Hubert, one of the hardest things is I know there's a million former players that want this job and can do an unbelievable job with this job. And so, I'm humbled that I had the opportunity to do it. I'm humbled that I had the opportunity to continue on with Coach Davis, but certainly try my best to, represent the experience I have. One of the neat things about our staff is that there are a lot of people who, with adding Jeff Lebo, who played for Coach Smith, obviously, Hubert and Sean May having the chance to play with Coach Williams. So the guys have played in different eras and have different experiences, but everybody that all played at Carolina and has been a part of the program and the tradition.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, the only thing I'm expecting to change a little bit with this new regime is I was never able to get my fours, my Jordan 4s, the light blue ones, Brad. Now, I knew that, I know going in there maybe talking to Coach Williams was a little difficult, but since you're my roommate, I'm expecting my shoes, Brad. Yeah. It's been 8 years and counting, Brad.
Yeah. Well, if you're 15, see, I got, these are the ones we got this past year. So, but you don't want these. You want just the 4s. Yeah. I hear you.
I'm simple.
You're simple.
I think they're the 4s. I think.
Yeah, no. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, the 4s.
I think I've spoken to you about that before. But.
Yeah, you know who the gear guy is. He stayed the same, man. Eric Hoots. He's a guy you need to take your request to. Eric
I don't want it to seem like I'm pressuring him. Hoots is my guy. I love me some Eric Hoots now. I don't want to make sure I'm pressuring. I expect my man Brad to be able to say, you know what, enough of this. Shammond needs a pair of 14s. No, actually 13s. I need 13. Yeah, because I'm not gonna play basketball in them. So I think it's a size 13. And I know that you had a big foot. Now, one thing that people don't know about you, though, I have to make sure I say this before we leave.
Okay.
Every year, you have the 12-minute run and you had a mile run.
Right.
Now we knew Brad. Play basketball and stuff like that. But what we didn't know was when first time he ran the 12-minute run with us, like pow, it took off. And I saw him take off. I said, in my head, I said, oh yeah, he's just happy because he made, he's up on the varsity now. I said he'll slow down eventually. And so, ladies and gentlemen, as we kept running 12 minutes, I said, oh Lord, no, this is just what he does. When I tell you, Brad Frederick is the fastest basketball player to run distance in Carolina history, I'm willing to bet anybody, anything, any of their old jerseys or whatever. The tough time, the mile tough time was what?
It was 4:55 for freshman guards. Yeah. And then
4:55. 4:55, ladies and gentlemen, a mile run. So, I said, when I saw him in the 12-minute, you say, oh my goodness, yeah, he knows something about this. When we ran that mile, and he ran, and I looked, I think I'm moving.
Right.
And I looked, I said, oh, he trying to catch me. He's trying to catch me. I can't let him embarrass me now. Now, I'm on about to finish my third lap. This young man is about to finish the race. Like, I'm telling you, when I tell you the man has wheels, ladies and gentlemen, he has wheels. Yeah, that tough time, man. Now, explain to us, Brett, how were you such a great runner? Tell us about that. Because you've been in the Olympics.
Yeah. No, I ran cross country in high school and always loved to run. And I knew that, again, I was trying to make the team. And actually, it's funny because I knew Coach Holliday, Joe Holliday, who was a longtime assistant in both Kansas and Carolina. And he actually coached Steve Hale. And Steve Hale's from Oklahoma and was our only Oklahoma Tar Heel until we just added Brady. But Steve Hale had the record in the mile, and Coach Holliday said to me before I left to go to Carolina, he said, oh, you'll never break Steve Hale's mile record. I said, I'll show you. And so I always had that in my mind that was something that I could achieve. And so, again, when you're not a good player, you try to find your way onto the team. And so for me, the 12-minute run and the mile was a way to show, how hard I wanted to work to be on the team. And so, I put a lot into it. But yeah, it's definitely still a source of pride because, you can't look at my points per game or minutes per game or anything like that and be impressed. But you can say, well, he's got the mile run record. But yeah, the 12-minute run one actually, I think was better because what I was trying to do in the 12-minute run was lap everybody. And so, the 12-minute run is again, we talk about it every year. Should we do the 12-minute run? Should we do the mile? We've talked about it with Hubert this year. Should we do those things? Because they really don't have any carryover to what you do in basketball, but it's just part of the Carolina tradition. And something that we've continued to do. So, I think one of the things, guys, it's amazing. We talk about it all the time. It's only 12 minutes on the track. It's only, 5 or 6 minutes, depending on how fast you run the mile. But guys dread doing that, and they absolutely dread running that. And so, coming back as a coach, I've had some cool experiences. I know Kennedy won't mind me mentioning this, but I spent a lot of mornings over with Kennedy as a freshman when he came in, trying to help him get that 12-minute time. I think we ran 13 times to get him as a freshman. And there's been some other guys who probably wouldn't want their name mentioned that you have to run a couple times. So we'll see. We'll see how we do this year with the guys and whether there'll be anybody out there that needs a little extra running to make their 12-minute run time.
Well, the interesting thing about that was, Brad, we played so much basketball back then that, Coach Smith would say, if you need Ben to help you, then, you can use Ben. Yeah. But if you don't, no problem.
Yeah.
But if you don't make that mile, you're not on the team. So
Yeah.
have a go at it.
Exactly.
However you want to do it. And so, that mile, man, and it's something because, like you said, that's one thing as former players. That's one thing that we you might say we dreaded it, but we
Right.
checked. Well,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? And to be the guy that's at the top of that list, man, that says a lot. Hey, you can say a lot of things about me, but everybody that's ran that in this program, I'm number one.
Exactly.
Hey, you know what I mean? Beat me. See, can you break that record? But Brad, man, I appreciate you, man. Love you, man. And thank you for being a participant here on the Carolina Conversation. And God permit, man, get an opportunity to see you guys in a few weeks.
Love you too, man. It's great to be on here, and anything you need, let me know.
Size
That's for those fours.
Fours, yeah, those fours. Tell your wife I said hello, man.
All right, man. You
Good
too.
kid for spending time with us. Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you.